We're going to start by explaining the sound system at the church here, from the stage back to the board and then coming back to the stage. And you'll understand why in a minute. So the main input locations are these four black boxes. One here, one over there by the piano, one there at the front, and then one over that way on that side of the stage. Each box has the same layout. We have 6 inputs, which are these XLR cables. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which I have kind of colored them here and listed them there just so that it's always easy just by looking at the cord to know what you're plugged into. There's 2 XLR outputs, which we are not using in our current kind of system configuration. There's these 2 network ports, which I'll explain those when we come back to the stage. And then we've got the 2 power plugs if you need to power a keyboard or something like that, or a monitor speaker. So this is input 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You plug your microphone, your guitar, your keyboard, you get it plugged into here, and you're sending your system through this, you're sending your signal through those cables. Now there's another 6 over here. That would be inputs 1 to 6 here, 7 to 12, 13 to 18, 19 to 24. So 24 inputs up on the stage. You plug into them and they take you back to our amp and S16 setup. This whole digital system, this is where it gets digitized, you could say, and sent back to the board through network cable. So all those inputs, those 24 inputs, are right here on these 2 S16 units. There's 2 of them, they're linked together, and each 16 unit can handle 16 inputs. We have 24 on our stage, so we got the first 8 here, 16, and then another 8 for 24. So those first 6 we were looking at are gonna be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's these guys. Now what happens with these S16 units, if I were to look on the back, it takes all of those input signals and it sends it back to the soundboard through a single digital cable. And when you turn on the soundboard, you can see and confirm that these inputs are being registered, these units are being registered on the board. So I'm going to explain how we turn on the board, how we make sure the board is seeing these units and collecting the inputs, because it's incredibly important that that happens. I guess the last thing I could mention is while all of these white cables are from the stage, we actually have a couple, at least presently, wireless mic systems where the receivers are back here, and those are, that would be, 24, so 8, 16, 24, we got 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30. So we got some more inputs there, and you can see up on our receivers that we've listed kind of which one is plugged into what. And the microphone or handheld units, they also have these labels, so we just know, everyone knows what channel they're dealing with, which becomes important when you're trying to figure out sound and inputs. You don't want to be tracing cables, you just want to make sure everybody knows and it's easy to identify. So that's what all those labels are for, and that's how this part, how the inputs are configured. They all come through here and head to the board, so that's where we're going next. All right, and here we are at the board. It's turned off and I've pulled it out so I can show you the connections on the back that we need to know for this video. But before we start, I did power it off just so you can see the power up process for the power amp and the whole rack unit with the S16 units back there and all that. It's all powered on by just simply hitting this button, and this light will start blinking. Once it is green, then we will know that for sure everything has been powered on. If there's no power here, then we're not going to get any of the inputs. The S16 units will not be powered on to send the input signals from the stage digitally back to here, nor will we be able to send any signal from the board back to the main speakers that are powered up there. So it has to be on. So that's going to be blinking for just a couple seconds, and in the meantime, let's get the board turned on. So it's just a rocker switch right here. Okay, switch that up, and we're going to see this thing light up. Now there's lots of buttons and faders and knobs, and we'll get into all that. But the thing that you need to know right out the gate is you need to be looking for this A right there, and I'm glad it is not connecting right now. So we have an A and a B right here. And that A and that B actually refers to these inputs right here. I'll get back here. I pulled it out here so you can see A and B. That says AES 50. This is the network cable that runs through the floor back to those S16 units. So the S16 unit has power, and it's collecting the input signals from everything on the stage, and it's sending it all back through this cable. And we know that that cable is connected if this A will say S16 plus, but it doesn't. So it's plugged in, but it's not actually connecting properly. This happens on occasion on this board, so I'm glad that it did this, so we can know the solution. All we need to do is pull the little push tab in there and just pull this out, and then when I plug it back in, you're going to hear a click. And boom, S16 plus. Every once in a while, you'll need to do that multiple times. It won't connect, it'll still beep and glitch and won't happen. You just do it again. You might have to do it 3, 4, 5, 6 times. Usually it's not more than that, but it'll eventually collect itself and give you this signal. This is what you need to know. Now we are talking to the back. We can collect the inputs here, and we can mix the sound. We can send it back, and it will push the sound to the main speakers. But that's not the only place that it pushes the sound to. Now I'm going to talk about the personal mixers and how we connect those back up on the stage. All right, we're back at the S16 units. We've turned it on the board. We've seen that S16 plus box was lit up with that green square, and so we know we're good to go. The inputs are coming in here and they're going to the board, but this S16 unit also collects the return feed back from all the inputs. The gain levels are adjusted on the board, but then it doesn't have anything even to do with the faders. All the channels will also come back through a cable, and then this S16 unit will take the return and send it back into here, okay? And from here, okay, this guy will take that signal and send it to 8 different network connections, which you guessed it, on the 4 boxes. Each box has 2 network jacks, and that connects to the personal mixers. So right now, like, there's 8 cables here, and they're actually even labeled. You know, we got over there in the camera, that's 5, I think that's 2. This one here is 1. You can see that 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But the reason they're not all plugged in is because on this particular ultranet unit, ultranet output, it's upside down just because this is a short cable. We needed to get the right side here. So these 2 ports and these 2 ports we're finding are powering the personal mixers, but they're not sending signal properly. So I have a replacement box coming. I'm not sure 100% what's up with that. We're going to find out. At any rate, when we get it replaced, all these are plugged in and they're all working, so that you can plug a personal mixer into any of the ports and they will get the sound for a musician to be able to make their own mix. So let's follow that. Once again, these are going through the floor. And let's head back to our personal mixing box here. So that's this guy, that number 1. So it's actually, if you're following the cables, it was 1, 2, and then 3, 4 over there, 5, 6, 7, 8. But it won't matter in the future because they'll all be connected in. But we know number 1 is a good one. That was the one that was plugged in with the green light. And we got a retractable Ethernet cable, and you don't have to have a retractable one. This one actually usually has a longer one that'll take over to the personal mixer there. But it just plugs into the back of this personal mixing unit right there. Input. And from here, you can plug in either a speaker with the phones. Just turn that around so you can see it. Plug in the phones. You can plug in a speaker. If you want a little stage monitor, and you can, each musician who's running one of these can control their own mix. It has nothing to do with what's going on the board. The guy on the board does not send more or less, turn you up or down. It's all done here, which is really, really handy. So you can pick the channel input, and you can only get the first 16, mind you, so that's important to know. But you pick the channel, 16 inputs, and you can control, for each one, you can control the pan or balance. You can kind of take it left, you can take it right, so you can kind of space it out if you're wearing headphones, you know where everybody is in the mix. And you can control the volume. So I want, if 7 is the guitar player, maybe I want that there. But if I really want to hear myself, or I need to hear like the piano player, singer, I can turn that up, okay? And I can give it some separation if I want. Up top, we got an equalizer, bass, mid, and the frequency of the mid and the treble. You can have put a limiter on so it doesn't get too loud. You can turn the volume up. Oh, and also on these, if there's someone I don't want to hear, I can just also mute them entirely. Click that, mutes it entirely. You know you have a good connection if this ultranet light is on. So if I plug this into one of the other ones with the dead port on that box, this is not going to come on. But you can understand now how the connections work from the inputs all the way to the board and then back to the personal mixer. And that's really the whole rundown on the physical connections and how all the sound stuff works, at least between the stage and the board, and also the main speakers up here. There's more to learn on the board for sure, but we're gonna get to that in a future video. That's what we got to show you for now on the connections. So if you're not getting sound to the monitors, or if you're having input issues, that's gonna be where you're gonna find it almost for sure. But we'll learn more about the board and some of these other things to do with sound here in our upcoming videos.